for you to introduce yourself,
Yeah,
then your role, and then you have to talk about some fun fact about yourself as well.
I thought about that, and Kapil has avoided that, so maybe he will deliver later. So, yeah, my name is Christoph. I'm working as a principal cloud architect for Go-To Technologies, and so I'm one person in a very small team that is called the Cloud Architecture Team, or CAT. And I'm going to refer to that later, what we do, but that's, and I'm also going to talk about what GoTo actually does. And for the fun fact, yeah, I thought about something, and I think I don't know if you're familiar with this meme called dads that didn't want dogs. And so my children are always telling me that I'm one of them, but I always had very good reasons for not having a dog. And like 2.5 years ago, those reasons went away. And then consequently, we opted for a dog. But the fun thing is, so this guy, I don't know if you can see this, he's sitting right here. So he's lying there. He's constantly supervising me in that armchair. And so that's his place. And he doesn't go anywhere else. And now they always make fun of me, like, you did never like dogs, and now the dog is your best friend. So that's, yeah, actually he's called Newton after the great physicist. And I think he's really intelligent. So that that was the fun fact. Now to go on with the presentation. Yeah, so you see what we are going to talk about, governance, or let's say how we are using Cloud Custodian to complement our governance tools for FinOps and security.
And
And
before you go in, like this is one of our topics that comes all the time. Like, custodians best in class in going from detection to action to prevention as well. But a lot of times you have your existing tooling. Even then, Cloud Custodian can fill a very significant gap. So I'm personally excited about, how you're using it to take things from other tools and put them into action and prevention.
yeah, right. So what in this session, so I will talk about how Cloud Custodian helped us to extend or even replace functionalities that we were missing or that are crucial for our FinOps and security operations and for the cloud governance. And so here at GoTo, we have been using a lot of different FinOps and security tools in our multi-cloud operation over the last, I would say, 8-10 years or even more. So since we went into the cloud, we were looking for stuff and we tried out a lot. Currently, it's the main tools we use is Cloudability and Wiz.io, though we also are using what's called Axonius and lots of other stuff that we have there. And but the two most important things that are adopted by the company are those two at the moment. And still, even with employing these, everybody came up, yeah, finally we can solve everything with these tools. If even then we learned one thing that that I think it's always true. So a single tool either doesn't cover all our cloud providers or doesn't have all the complete data model or the functionality. So it's never there. We never have the one tool that can do anything, even in that single area of concern, right? So what do we do to fill these gaps? Yeah, usually you when you still have a small operation, you do this with manual effort, but when you scale up at a certain size, you will have to automate that, and then you need more tools to fill that gap. So let's quickly have a look at the size of the operation that we're talking about. So Go-To Technologies is, well, I think we have a pretty long history. The very first company in there was founded in 1998 in Hungary. And so since then, there were lots of acquisitions, and currently we put around 15 different tools for essential communication. We call it essential communication under our roof. So we provide software solutions and infrastructure for, I would say, personal communication and interaction. And this reaches from simple voice and video phone calls and remote support sessions to webinars for up to 50,000 participants. So using Zoom today feels unfamiliar, but it's okay. And of course, we currently we put a lot of AI into these things wherever it's useful. Sometimes I think it's not very useful, but some of these things are really amazing. The revenue that we put up is about $1 billion. So we have about 3,500 to 4,000 employees, and about 1,100 of them are engineers. And these products, they run under several brands. Maybe you've heard about them. It's like LogMeIn, Grasshopper, Jive, Mirador, OpenVoice, Hamachi, and of course this GoTo family of a lot of different products, GoToTraining, GoToWebinar, GoToConnect, these kind of things. And all of these products were successfully moved into the cloud over a course of like 6 years or so. And since last year, I think end of last year, we do not have any data centers anymore. So everything is now officially moved into the cloud, and we operate this on multi-clouds, multi-region, multi-account environments. So in AWS alone, we have 120 accounts where we split. And so we currently use AWS, Azure, OCI, and a little bit of GCP, but we don't want to talk about this too much. People are using GCP, but yeah, so we probably have to include it. But yeah, especially with OCI, we had big problems with tools because the big three were always supported by these tools. Cloudability, for example, still doesn't support OCI. They promised this for some years. So let's see when they come up with a solution there. So we have to extend that missing functionality with our own scripts and whatever we get out there, right? So that's one of the things I spoke about before. And then the open source tools like Cloud Custodian come in very handy for that. So the cloud architecture team, where I'm part of it, is overseeing and supporting this ongoing migrations. So the migration into the cloud didn't stop there. Now we have to take all these former on-premise stuff and create some kind of a cloud native deployment out of it and cloud native architecture, because as somebody, I think Kelsey mentioned it before, we used to own the hardware and it was not a problem to use it all. And suddenly our people have to take care that yeah, it costs money actually, and it costs more when you use more. And yeah, so we see in production we have a lot of scaling ongoing. So if you look at, for example, on our server deployment structure, we are deploying up, so let's say between 3,000 and 5,000 servers every day, and over the day let's say the breathing of our infrastructure is about like 50 to 70% each day. So that's a lot of machines that we instantiate and tear down every day. Yeah? And so the cloud architecture team is supporting the teams in using this cloud native architecture. And we also take care of the cloud governance, the security, and automation on that high level. And so very important among our tasks is FinOps and identity and access management. So, and then I have prepared some selected challenges that we are facing here. And so that's, let's say for FinOps and basically for everything, the basic functionality that we use everywhere is tagging, because tagging is something that is, let's say, it's one of the features of the cloud or the cloud providers that they all have, yeah, right? So they're different in how to build up the infrastructure in many cases, but tagging is something that they all support. And so tagging is, of course, for us the key feature to assign costs correctly to products. And without this assignment, we basically cannot have product controlling. And the big change for all the products was that we have a central product controlling now. But when we did the acquisition, so none of these were working under a central product controlling. So suddenly they had to change their operations. They had to adapt their CI/CD tools and so on. And of course, everything went wrong in the beginning. And tagging practices are either there or not, and mostly not. So cloudability doesn't help us here. Yeah. So like all the other FinOps tools, they consume tagging and they cannot enforce it. And so that's where actually Cloud Custodian steps in. And so also to emphasize what tagging is for us, tagging also with the grouping of resources by the tags, we can actually have a much stronger negotiation for the different product infrastructure, right? Because we know, let's say, all this specific new VM type is assigned to one big product. And then we can ask these guys, how are you going to expand? How are you going to scale in the next years? And then we make a contract, a reservation or something, whatever kind of cost saving program is available with the cloud provider. We are doing this based on the grouping of resources. So without tagging, a lot of manual effort would go into the remediation, right? So currently we're doing auto tagging with Cloud Custodian, and alone in AWS we auto tag about 600 items per week. That means we find new stuff is created, it's untagged, but we have an auto tagging feature that just supplies the right tags. And I just did a quick calculation. If you want to do this by hand, I would say it would be 20 hours effort per week just for adding tags. Yeah. So fortunately, we do not have to do this. Yeah. So that would be too much. And we are only 5 people in our team. So as I said before, the FinOps tools do not help in executing these things, not even the recommendations that they say. So of course you can support controlling with the FinOps tools. Controlling will come out with some things. Oh yeah, we are spending too much money here, so that this operation is too big. Can you maybe save costs there? But the FinOps tool itself, like Cloudability, isn't helping there. That's us. We have to do this. Yeah. So we have to nag teams, and hopefully we also automated nagging a lot with the help of Cloud Custodian as well. So the security tools are then another story. So we actually acting on our infrastructure would be possible with tools like Wiz.io. So they have these kind of mitigation features. You could execute stuff when you have a finding there, security flaw or something. Then you could actually make Wiz.io or give it the rights or the permissions to work on your cloud infrastructure. But we will never do this. We don't want to have a tool that already has a lot of reading rights to also have execution rights. Yeah, so we want to separate the concerns here, especially when that tool is also run in the cloud, like Wiz.io. So we don't want to have external cloud let's say workloads fiddle with our operation. And now there comes Cloud Custodian, right? So Cloud Custodian, we talked a lot about this, so I don't want to spend a lot of time here. Only that we actually are embracing this governance as code philosophy. So we defined cloud governance rules some like 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago or something. That's like 30 to 40 really basic rules, and some of them are very simple, like naming conventions for IAM resources. Yeah? And some of them are very complex, like we would like to, or we have to use the least privilege principle with all our permissions. And you cannot, not all of them can be supported with Cloud Custodian, but currently we see that about 2/3 of these we implemented as Cloud Custodian policies. Either these are simple checks, or they even there are some actions combined with checks, and wherever it seems appropriate. And the results of these are displayed in a governance dashboard. So the governance dashboard shows a daily feedback on how these rules are used at the moment, or what results the checks gave, and these kind of things. And that governance dashboard is available publicly for the whole company. And just let me show you a quick look at the architecture that we are in which we are running this. So that's very roughly how we implement this. We call the governance automation architecture, and currently we deploy this on a Linux VM in each cloud. So there's in OCI, in AWS, and in Azure, we have a VM running that locally executes the custodian as a C7n-org. So because we always have multiple accounts or multiple subscriptions, or however the workspace idea is described with a different cloud provider. And so the scheduler is a simple cron. The detector is actually Cloud Custodian C7n-org. So that's what we use as detector. And so we have a reactor container here, and the reactor is basically executing Python scripts. For example, if Cloud Custodian finds a user, an IAM, a technical IAM user that has not been tagged, then the Python script goes back into the log files and finds the creator of that user and sends him an email, a nasty email telling him, if you don't tag, we are going to delete this tomorrow. So so something that would usually it would take 15 minutes for us to do this if we actually detected this user. Yeah? So that's now completely automated, and since we employed it, the number of untagged users is actually 0. So we have a policy store that's simply, in that case, it's a file system, and we have a result store. The result store is Azure storage container, and the storage container is the basis for the Power BI powered governance dashboard. So just we also, yeah, as we always talk about cost, in AWS, this whole installation costs about $30 a month at the moment. So, and that's unbeatably cheap. I checked other deployment, let's say, targets, and they all are lots, let's by even by orders of magnitude more expensive than having this single VM running there. Let me show you some example use cases. So we have, for example, the automatic tagging enforcement. Tagging goes throughout our whole CI/CD as well. So when we deploy, for example, our IAM, or let's say when we use Terraform to manage our whole cloud deployment. So whenever somebody wants to have a new account, subscription, or compartment, then we have a central Terraform, how would you call it? Terraform repo. We manage PRs there, and as soon as this, so let's say a part of this, we already check if the mandatory 6 tags are in that configuration. So all our workspaces in the clouds are rolled out with tags already. So that allows us to do a tagging right from the start. Let's say we can always rely on let's say account specific tags being there, and the automated tagging uses these tags and just applies it to everything we have there. So we are I'm talking about that later, where we apply these things, and I have a screenshot for you for that. So another example would be idle resource cleanup. So example, we of course, with 1,100 engineers, there's a lot of roles that are defined every day, and even a lot of old roles. Yeah, we are 8 years, or even I think we are at least 8 years in the cloud. We had been running access keys that were like 3,500 days old until we cleaned them up. And so we have even these old unused roles there, and we are reaching the role limit in some of these accounts already. So you have I think it's 1,000 roles that you can define, and we are at 850 in some of them. So we regularly need to clean up old unused roles, for example. Yeah, that's something. They don't cost money, but they for us they add complexity, and they add security concerns here. The other thing is cost control automation. That's something for example, we use for us, it's really important to have a very granular cost assignment. That means we are assigning these the cost of resources not only to cost tags, which are cost centers, but also to teams. And the combination of team and cost tag is something that we maintain centrally, and we use Cloud Custodian to actually use these centrally stored and maintained lists of teams and cost tags to make sure that they are correctly tagged. Yeah. So in cases where the teams are tagging the resources, we actually check with Cloud Custodian if they did it in the right way. And last example here would be the security misconfiguration. One of our rules, for example, is that no access key can be older than 90 days, and then it has to be rotated. And we also use Cloud Custodian to detect all of these. And in that case, we actually execute an action. So whenever we find one of these outdated access keys, we deactivate it. And so that's yeah, so that's a kind of screen test. So you will immediately know if that key is needed the next day. But usually, if it hasn't been used for 90 days, you can be pretty sure that it will not be used for the next or forevermore. Yeah? So and if somebody complains, we can still reactivate it because we do not know the implementation of this, right? So now actually I like to share two cases where we see how so let's start with how Cloud Custodian complements with IO and cloudability now. Okay, so I made a small table where we can see what the how we see the or let's say that makes transparent where we see the position of Cloud Custodian with respect to cloudability with IO. So I've put three aspects up here, like visibility, actionability, and prevention. And so the way we implement cloudability, it gives us some sort of visibility, not, let's say, not for every second, but a daily or monthly, like controlling basically wants it. So it's not really interactive. It's very complex to configure, cloudability especially, and the actionability is, I would say, bad. It needs people that interpret cloudability results and reports and then act upon this. And prevention is basically not there. There's an indirect, let's say, an indirect feedback loop between cloudability and Cloud Custodian because, for example, the cloudability gives us the resources that we have to pay attention to the most. Yeah, so we identified 10 resources in the cloud that are actually driving our cost, and that is where we put which we focus. We do not, well, there are hundreds or thousands of different resources, but not all of them are important or are used, and cloudability helps us in identifying them. And then this drives the Cloud Custodian implementation for checking the tagging and yeah, where we have to put our focus on. WizIO has a great visibility. Yeah, if you have used the web the web UI and you're familiar with the flexibility of their rules, that's really nice. Yeah, and in our case, we actually for some of the rules that we put in the dashboard, the results that we put in the dashboard, we can actually see that WizIO delivers a better a better report on that, and because their data model is a little bit better than what we get from Cloud Custodian, and so that helps a lot. Actionability is given there. You could do more, but prevention, we do not actually want WizIO to do this. Whatever it can, we do not give WizIO an active role in our clouds. With Cloud Custodian, the story is completely different. Yeah, so Cloud Custodian is for us a kind of Swiss pocket knife of cloud governance, and that's how we use it. So we use it everywhere we can to automate stuff, and even for ad hoc thingies. Yeah, so recently we went on a big let's say big initiative to finally rotate or to onboard all the remaining users, technical users, to automatic key rotation, and Cloud Custodian was helping a lot in doing ad hoc reports on how many of these are still there, and in that case we also found a flaw in WizIO just by using Cloud Custodian to cross-check what WizIO gave out. Yeah? So Cloud Custodian, so we use it to cross-check the Wiz reports and findings, and we use it to enhance the granularity of the cloudability cost assignment. And as a result, the Cloud Custodian extends the FinOps and the security governance at exactly the points where the tools fall short. And that's I think that's also the let me talk about that later. So let's move to two examples for that. So the examples that we have here is one thing. I want to share one screenshot of our that's one part of our dashboard. And so you see that that's a daily report. So these are the rule number 6 is about tagging everything. So we have sub rules then for the different cloud resources, and these 10 resources are actually the ones that we identified as being cost drivers or security relevant. And so we are actually looking at this every day, and we can use Cloud Custodian to do this across our cloud. So we have some legacy AWS, we have some new AWS accounts. OCI and Azure are the smaller cloud deployments that we use. And if you see a 0, it means that the resource, either we don't have these resources in the cloud, or or in some cases, the resources do not exist there. And for example, this is open search domains. For example, there's nothing in OCI or Azure that is the equivalent for this. Or in some rare cases, we actually have not implemented the rule yet for that. So that's something that we use daily. And yeah, even the management looks at this. And actually, that's the more, let's say, that's the only part of the dashboard I actually wanted to share, because the rest is security relevant, and that's not, we don't share this then. The second example I wanted to talk about is about the WizIO, the security example. And so, for example, at the bottom you see that we have a cloud configuration rule about the API key rotation. And so that's how we get it here. And so when Wiz did these findings, the findings are then automatically picked up by our ticketing system, and those findings are then assigned to the teams where that security finding was found, right? And so with the help of Cloud Custodian, we found a functional bug in Wiz, because we could cross-check the Wiz report with the Cloud Custodian report, and it turned out in case of a user having 2 access keys that were outdated, Wiz would close the finding after one of these keys had been rotated, and that left the other one unrotated. But for Wiz, the finding was down. But with Cloud Custodian, we could see this, and that led to a bug report. I think they fixed it by now, but that was actually, it was giving us a wrong idea of our security posture. And Cloud Custodian, as we had the chance to use this for cross-checking, it helped us a lot in confirming that we actually safe here. So coming to the last slide, so coming to an end. So what are the conclusions here? Yeah? So one thing is, I told you before, in combination of these tools, we gain a deeper visibility, some sort of real-time enforcement, we improve our cost and security posture with combining Cloud Custodian with Cloudability and WizIO. Also, we found out that for a practical technical thing, we tried out deployments of Cloud Custodian with Kubernetes and with GitHub Actions, and they actually do not provide a cost benefit there. So just to share, when I run, when I tried it out, for example, when I run Cloud Custodian as a GitHub action, for 1 hour of GitHub action runtime, I can run a VM in AWS for a full month. So that's how expensive how expensive a GitHub action actually is. So in the future, we want to extend our usage of GCP in Cloud Custodian, because we are extending also our cloud deployment into this, and we actually would like to improve the OCI coverage of Cloud Custodian, the OCI provider. You might not know it, but like 2 years ago, when we were actually, and that let's say that subscribes to the point that Kelsey brought up. So open source is actually about changing stuff yourself, right? And we found that Cloud Custodian was really useful in AWS, and our second biggest deployment was in OCI, and they didn't offer anything. And we had a pretty good connection with OCI because we were a really early adopter of the cloud. And then we went into the support there, and we asked them, can you do something about this? There's a nice open source and even cloud native tool, Cloud Custodian. Could you do something? And surprisingly, they had some money over, and they had some engineers, and that led to the first release of the OCI provider for Cloud Custodian. And we are really glad about that, and we're using it daily because we want to check this stuff as well in OCI. And we hope that the OCI provider will grow a bit and extend the coverage. So yeah, that's the only thing that if I would have to say something about something that we would like to see, then it would actually be that the functionality of Cloud Custodian would get in the other clouds like Azure and OCI to the same level like that it is currently in AWS, and that would be really nice. Yeah, then we see that for some of those our initiatives that we have to where we have to cover all our clouds, we need to do specific solutions in OCI and in Azure, and in AWS is actually a simple policy, and yeah, that it would be nice if we could have the same level of functionality in all the clouds. And yeah, with these words, actually, I'm at the end of the presentation. Thanks for listening, and I hope we have some time for questions. Or did I talk too long?
No, perfect. I think the content was great. You can see with all the emojis, probably people are typing the email, checking the Slack messages. But this would be a great time to appreciate the great presentation you put together. And especially, it's pretty late. What time is it for you now?
It's 5 p.m., so not too late, actually.
Yeah, not too late, right? Right in time, right?